She played him for 15 years. He played the final move. My phone buzzed just as I left the airport. Don't go home tonight. The message was from my younger brother, Nathan. I had just landed in New York after a 3-week business trip in Tokyo. Why? What's going on? I replied, my suitcase still trailing behind me. His response came fast. Just trust me. Come to my place. I'll explain everything. I didn't ask more. Nathan had never spoken like this, not even during our worst family emergencies. I rerouted immediately to his brownstone in Brooklyn. When I arrived, he didn't greet me with his usual smirk. He looked hunted. There's something you need to see, Logan, he said, guiding me into the living room. My name is Logan Mercer. I'm 42, CEO of Mercer & Company, a billion-dollar construction empire responsible for reshaping the New York skyline. My company builds cities, but my foundation has always been family. My wife, Elena, had been with me since the days I was just a nobody hauling cement on site. We had 2 kids, Michael, 17, and Ivy, 15. For the past decade, we were the picture of success, private schools, family vacations in Tuscany, smiling portraits in glossy magazines. But that image was about to shatter. On the coffee table in Nathan's dimly lit living room sat a laptop, a stack of printed photos, and a few black surveillance drives. What the hell is this? I asked, already dreading the answer. Nathan's face hardened. Watch. He clicked play. The footage was from my home office. I recognized every detail, the glass globe on the shelf, the cherry wood desk. Elena walked in. Behind her was a man I didn't recognize. Tall, smooth blonde. She laughed, her hand brushing his arm. That's Vincent Hale, Nathan said quietly. Real estate magnate from the West Coast. Been investing in Manhattan projects for months. Except, that's not all he's doing. In the video, Vincent sat at my desk, while Elena perched beside him, her legs draped across his lap. The screen froze on their kiss. I felt like I'd been punched. There's more, Nathan said, opening another file. This one made my stomach twist. Michael and Ivy sat across from Elena and Vincent. My children, my own blood, passing documents across the desk. Michael handing Vincent printed contracts. Ivy showing him something on her phone, pointing, smiling. They've been feeding him everything, Nathan said, disgust thick in his voice. Meeting schedules. Internal documents. Your call logs. I dropped into the nearest chair. Nathan continued. It started about 8 months ago. Elena shared minor updates. Your moods, your calendar. But once Vincent entered the picture, it escalated fast. Michael cracked your internal database. Ivy has been recording your calls. I couldn't speak. I just stared. They're not just betraying you, Nathan said. They're selling you out. I finally managed. How do you know Vincent's behind this? Nathan slid a folder over. I've been tracking him. Inside were documents, screenshots, photos. Vincent Hale wasn't just some slick developer. He was a predator. Son of a collapsed shipping dynasty in Seattle, he'd clawed back the family name through aggressive land grabs and hostile takeovers. His firm had quietly bought properties across Manhattan, many right across from mine. He's setting up to launch a public development company next year, Nathan said, in direct competition with Mercer & Company. But that's not the worst of it. What is? I asked, though I already felt like I was drowning. Nathan locked eyes with me. This wasn't business, Logan. This was personal. He's been targeting you from the start. And just like that, my world, everything I had built, began to fracture beneath my feet. With the intel your wife and kids are feeding him, Nathan said grimly, Vincent's poised to gut your empire from the inside. He knows your clients, your vulnerabilities, your next 3 moves before you even make them. I shut the folder and turned slowly toward him. You said there were audio recordings. Nathan hesitated. Logan, some of this will hurt. I'm already bleeding, I said. Play it. He clicked on the first file. Elena's voice crackled through the speakers. Too familiar, too sharp. Logan thinks he's invincible. But I know every trigger, every blind spot. He built this empire on fear and control, and the kids hate him for it. Then Vincent's voice. And they're really on board. Absolutely. Michael still resents that boarding school. Ivy wants out from under his rules. I told them this would buy them freedom. They're helping us because they want a life he'll never give them. The recording ended in Elena's laughter. Logan Mercer won't see it coming. He still thinks we're his perfect little family. The silence afterward was suffocating. When I finally spoke, the voice that emerged wasn't that of a husband or father. It was the voice I'd used to dismantle competitors, to bury lawsuits, to crush rivals. Help me teach them what betrayal costs, I said. All of them. Nathan didn't blink. What do you need? I walked to the window. My reflection stared back, an empire's ghost haunting the skyline I helped build. I want them to know exactly who they declared war on. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in Nathan's study, mapping out every angle of their betrayal. By morning, 3 legal pads were filled with diagrams, timelines, psychological profiles. You look wrecked, Nathan said, handing me coffee. I feel reborn, I replied flatly. Now I know the game. Elena's new interest in my board meetings. The kids' sudden need for space. Vincent Hale showing up out of nowhere. This was orchestrated. Nathan's jaw clenched. He hadn't seen this side of me since I hunted down the loan sharks who drove our father to suicide 20 years ago. What's the plan? I pointed to the whiteboard. Phase 1. Intel. I want to know everything about Vincent Hale. Skeletons, habits, secrets. What does he fear? What does he hide? And what is he planning? Nathan nodded. Already on it. I've got investigators digging through everything. Financials, ex-wives, closed-door deals, sealed court files. Phase 2. Control. They'll think I'm still blind. I'll come home, act normal. Let them believe I'm the clueless patriarch. I drew loops and arrows, names, connections, weak points. Phase 3, revelation. When I move, they'll know exactly what they've done and exactly what they've lost. And Phase 4, Nathan asked. I looked him dead in the eye. That's when they learn some lines can never be uncrossed. For the next 3 days, I played the role of devoted husband and doting father with Oscar-worthy charm. I returned home that Sunday bearing gifts. Designer bags for Elena, a new console for Michael, top-grade art supplies for Ivy. Ivy hugged me like nothing was wrong. We missed you so much, Dad. I missed you too, sweetheart, I said, hugging her back while silently counting her heartbeat. At dinner, I played the fool. How's the Henderson project? Elena asked, spooning salad onto my plate. Locked in. Groundbreaking in 4 weeks. I watched her face. There it was, a micro-flinch. Everything's in my study if you want to peek, I added. I've kept everything organized, she smiled sweetly. Later, as we lay in bed, she curled against me. I love you, Logan, she whispered. I love you too, I lied. Monday. The war begins. As soon as Elena left with the kids, I called Nathan. He was parked in a surveillance bin 2 blocks away. All communications are tapped. Calls, texts, DMs. We'll know what they're planning before they do. What did your Seattle team dig up on Vincent? Nathan's voice turned cold. Big family name. Uncle's a federal judge. Cousin's a senator. This guy is cover. Good, I said. Would have been too boring otherwise. There's more. 2 ex-wives. One accused him of psychological abuse. The other filed for a restraining order, then mysteriously dropped it. Patterns? I asked. Oh yeah. He seduces the wives of powerful men, manipulates the family, rips insider data, then burns the company. Did it in San Francisco, Denver, Phoenix. Same exact playbook. I stared out my office window, fuming. He's not just targeting my business. He's perfecting his con. That's not even the worst part, Nathan added. Your family, they're pawns, but willing ones. They chose him. That evening, I called a family meeting. We all sat in the living room like something out of a sitcom. Thought we should check in, I said, watching them closely. I've been away too much. I want to know your plans. Michael looked confused. Like college. Sure. California? He nodded hesitantly. Yeah, maybe Stanford. Expensive, but doable. Then I turned to Ivy. What about you? I'm just 15, Dad. Still, it's never too early to plan. I leaned forward, warm, calm. No matter what you choose, I'm here for you. Family comes first. Always. Elena reached over and squeezed my hand. That's why we love you. I squeezed back. I love you all. More than you'll ever know. Later, I watched the surveillance footage. They were rattled. Within minutes, Elena called Vincent. The kids fired off urgent texts to untraceable numbers. From Elena's call. He's acting weird. Too nice. Too curious. What if he suspects? Vincent's reply was smooth as always. He doesn't know. I leaned back in my chair, satisfied. Oh, but I do. And they're about to find out. He doesn't know, Elena. Vincent's voice crackled over the surveillance audio. If Logan had even a clue, he would have already torched everything. Elena's voice was hesitant. You're sure? Absolutely. Men like him are too arrogant to imagine their own family could betray them. He's probably just trying to be more present out of guilt. I paused the playback, lips curling into a cold smile. Vincent had miscalculated. I wasn't subtle when angry. He was right about that. But this wasn't anger. This was surgical precision. The next morning, I dialed Francisco, my assistant. Schedule a dinner this Saturday. 8 people, intimate, high value. Tell them it's for Henderson Project investors. Francisco paused. Anyone in particular? Yes. Add Vincent Hale. He's been sniffing around Manhattan properties. Time we met officially. Another pause. I don't have his contact info. That's fine. Elena knows him. Ask her. I ended the call and phoned Nathan. It's time. I'm inviting him to dinner. Nathan barked a disbelieving laugh. You're bringing your enemy into your house. I want to watch him perform. Let's see how well he lies when he's sitting across from the man whose family he corrupted. You're insane. No, I'm in control. Sure enough, 2 hours later, Elena texted me. Ran into Vincent at the cafe. Thought it'd be nice to invite him for Saturday's dinner. Hope that's okay. Perfect, I replied. Looking forward to meeting him. Chapter 3, Dinner for the Damned. Saturday night arrived with the chill of late October. I stood in the hallway mirror, adjusting my tie. My hands didn't tremble from nerves. They shook with anticipation. Elena descended the stairs in a black cocktail dress I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. You look stunning, I said. I meant it. Betrayal hadn't dulled her beauty, just revealed the rot beneath it. Thank you, darling. Everything's ready. The dining room was flawless. Flowers, candles, wine glasses polished to crystal shine. Elena was a master of appearances. Michael and Ivy emerged from the kitchen, dressed like young royalty. I gave them a warm nod. Tonight is important. This is business. Be polite, stay focused. Vincent Hale might bring opportunities. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 o'clock. I opened it myself. There he was. Vincent Hale. Tall, smooth, handsome in that polished, marketable way. The kind of smile that wins contracts and shatters homes. Mr. Mercer, he said, extending his hand. An honor to be here. I shook his hand, firm enough to make him remember. Please, call me Logan. Any friend of Elena's is a friend of mine. He blinked. Just for a moment. A flicker of confusion. Good. Elena, our guest has arrived. She floated in from the living room, the perfect hostess. Mr. Hale, welcome. He bowed slightly. Thank you again for the invitation. Your home is more beautiful than I imagined. I watched his eyes linger too long on the staircase, the artwork, the layout. He'd been here before, just not through the front door. The other guests arrived shortly after. Mason O'Reilly, my banker, Victor Bloom from City Planning, and Howard Cho, a fellow developer I'd worked with on 3 multi-billion-dollar projects. All carefully selected, all oblivious to the real purpose of this night. During cocktails, I observed. Elena was distant with Vincent, but her body betrayed her, leaning in during conversation, brushing fingers while handing a drink. She played the part of casual host with expert grace, but I'd studied deception longer than she'd practiced it. Michael and Ivy were less subtle. Both hung on Vincent's every word, firing questions about real estate and market trends. They thought they were spying. They didn't realize they were being watched. Mr. Hale, Howard was saying, I hear you're exploring opportunities in Manhattan. What sectors are you looking into? Mixed-use development, Vincent replied smoothly, swirling his whiskey. Luxury residential, high-rise infrastructure. I admire the kind of legacy Logan's built here. I leaned forward. Tell us your story. What brought you to New York? Vincent offered a polished version of his bio, family investments, uncle's advice, an itch for new markets. I was told that to conquer cities, you start by learning from the kings who built them. Across the table, Elena smiled. She had heard that line before. Well said, Mason agreed. Logan could teach a masterclass on this city. It would be an honor, Vincent replied, eyes locking with mine. I smiled back, steel behind my teeth. As dinner continued, I ran subtle tests. I dropped names of upcoming projects, invented schedules, watched Vincent's reactions. Something surprised him. Others didn't. Busy month ahead, I said casually during dessert. Dallas, then Phoenix. Might swing through Seattle after that. Vincent's fork hovered in the air for a half second. Seattle's a smart play, he said finally. Happy to share insights if you're interested. I'd appreciate that. After the other guests left, Vincent lingered. Elena disappeared to oversee the cleanup. Michael and Ivy vanished upstairs. Perfect. I invited him to the study for a final drink. The door closed behind us. I poured 2 glasses of 25-year-old scotch, handed him one. To new partnerships, I said. He raised his glass. To empire builders. To partnerships, I said, raising my glass. To new opportunities, Vincent replied, clinking his crystal against mine. We sat in my study, my territory, my battlefield, each of us cloaked in civility. The amber light of the desk lamp made the mahogany gleam, casting deep shadows across the room. This was the same office where he had secretly met with Elena and my children. I wondered if he realized the irony of sipping my whiskey in the scene of his betrayal. Your family seems tight, Vincent said, casually fishing. They're everything to me. I replied, slow and measured. Everything I've built, this house, my company, every deal I've signed, it's all been for them. Vincent nodded thoughtfully. Admirable. Not many men in your position say that. I leaned forward slightly, watching him. Family is sacred. Loyalty is everything. I can forgive mistakes, even weakness, but betrayal? I let the word breathe between us. Betrayal, Vincent echoed, breaks trust. Once it's gone, it's not about rebuilding, I interrupted. Some things, once broken, should stay that way. Vincent shifted in his seat. Well, he said, finishing his scotch, this has been a great evening. I look forward to continuing the conversation. Oh, I said, standing to shake his hand. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of each other. After I closed the door behind him, I found Elena in the kitchen, humming as she dried wine glasses. That went well, don't you think? She asked brightly. Mr. Hale seems quite nice. He's interesting, I replied. Very knowledgeable. Like someone who's been researching this market for months. Her hands froze on the towel. Well, that's what smart businessmen do. True. I stepped behind her, wrapped my arms around her waist. I love you, you know. She leaned back against me. I love you too. I kissed the top of her head, breathing in her familiar scent. Phase 2 was complete. Vincent had taken the bait. Now, the real game began. Over the next 2 weeks, my surveillance team collected everything. Late-night calls, secret texts, nervous whispers. Elena, Vincent, and my children were scrambling to interpret my behavior. He's suspicious, Michael said in a recorded call to Vincent. Keeps asking about our schedules, our plans, stuff he never used to care about. Stay calm, Vincent replied. If he knew anything, he would have exploded by now. Logan Mercer doesn't play games. I laughed when I heard that. Vincent Hale had misread his opponent entirely. Then came the final confirmation from Nathan's contacts in Seattle. Vincent's empire was held together by debt and silence. His success was based on manipulation and targeting men who would rather quietly rebuild than publicly retaliate. But I wasn't like his past victims. I wasn't going to rebuild. I was going to burn his playbook. You ready for phase 3? Nathan asked during one of our early morning meetings. I stared out across the Manhattan skyline, calm and focused. More than ready. It's time they see what happens when they betray the wrong man. What's the move? I turned, grinning. We're going to give them exactly what they think they want, then take everything away. I called a family meeting on a cold morning in November. We gathered in the sitting room, Elena, Michael, Ivy. I reclined in my chair like a man surrendering his crown. I've been reflecting, I began. About our family, about balance. I think it's time I step back from Mercer and Company. Elena perked up like a wolf catching scent. Not permanently, I continued. But I'm promoting Nathan to COO and bringing in outside consultants to assist with our expansion. Michael's eyes lit up. You'd really step back? Maybe even sell a controlling interest, if the right partner came along. The temperature in the room shifted. Elena was practically glowing with suppressed anticipation. Michael and Ivy exchanged a subtle glance. That's a big step, Logan, she said carefully. But I think you deserve that kind of peace. I'd appreciate your help evaluating candidates, I added. You've always had good instincts about people. She swallowed her excitement. Of course. Anyone in mind? I was thinking about Vincent Hale, I said, watching every twitch of her face. He seemed sharp, connected, knows the New York market. The silence that followed was thunderous. He's very capable, Elena managed. But maybe be cautious about bringing in outsiders. I smiled, savoring the irony. Of course, but I trust him. Over the next week, I arranged casual lunches, staged coincidental meetings, and slowly introduced the idea of a formal business relationship to Vincent. Meanwhile, Nathan's team tracked every whisper, every text, every smug exchange. At lunch one day, Vincent finally addressed it. I have to say, I'm honored, Logan, but are you sure you want to move this quickly? Sometimes you just have to trust your gut, I said, slicing into a dry-aged steak. And my instincts tell me you're someone I can rely on. You've spoken to your family about this? I met his gaze. They're all in. Elena says you're charming. The kids love your stories about Seattle. Elena even told me I should move faster. For the first time, Vincent's confident smile cracked. She did. Elena's got a good eye. She saw the truth in you right away. That afternoon, Nathan played the newest recording for me. Vincent to Elena. This feels wrong. He's moving too fast. It smells like a trap. Elena's voice was electric with triumph. It's not a trap. It's everything we wanted. He's giving you the company, on a silver platter. But why? Because I've been preparing him for this. Telling him to ease off, to trust more, to relax. The dinner was the final push. You being in our home made you seem like family. She laughed, soft and proud. And the kids? Perfect. All those talks about needing freedom? It worked. He thinks he's being a better father by letting go. Vincent joined in her laughter. He has no idea. But I did. And soon, they'd realize just how far I was willing to go. They've been feeding us intel for months, Elena said smugly. Logan's greatest flaw is that he believes love means loyalty. He can't imagine we might want something different. I paused the recording and turned to Nathan, who was seated across from me in the darkened conference room. You getting all this? Every word, he replied. We've got full video and audio. You could bury them in court. I don't want court, I said quietly. Court is for people who believe in justice. I believe in consequences. 2 weeks later, I handed Vincent Hale exactly what he wanted. A consulting contract with Mercer & Company, dangling a potential buy-in if he impressed during a 6-month trial period. It gave him access to everything. Internal financials, project bids, high-level meetings, and proprietary planning docs. Industry reporters called it a bold expansion. They praised my foresight in partnering with a rising visionary from the West Coast. My firm became the subject of glowing profiles, photo shoots, and investor buzz. And the entire time, my surveillance team was capturing everything he stole. Elena fed him updates on my health, mood, and travel. Michael and Ivy tracked my every move. Vincent copied files, took photos, recorded sensitive conversations. What none of them realized was that I had been feeding them fiction, false spreadsheets, fake projections, bogus timelines, strategic landmines wrapped in shiny paper. He thinks he's winning, I told Nathan one evening, pointing at Vincent's name on the warboard. So he won't question what he's stealing. He's making decisions based on those projections? Nathan asked. Yup, and they'll bankrupt him. But what about you? He asked. The emotional toll of this, watching your wife, your kids, betray you every day. I turned to the window, watching the skyline I had built. That toll came the moment I found out. Everything since then, it's just logistics. And when it's over? When it's over, I'll finally be free from the illusion that I ever had a family. The cracks began in December. Vincent's investor pitches began imploding. His numbers didn't match market reality. Timelines collapsed. Partners pulled out. Something's wrong, he said on a tap call to Elena. Either Logan's incompetent, or Brandon copied the wrong files. That's impossible, Elena replied. Maybe you're misreading the market. I don't misread markets. I smiled as I listened. They couldn't fathom that I was lying to them. Then came the next wave. Vincent pulled funding from his West Coast ventures to focus on Chicago. He bet everything on bad data. Now Seattle was crumbling. Creditors circled like sharks. He's spiraling, Nathan reported. 6 weeks before his West Coast properties implode. Maybe less. Then it's time, I said. Phase 4. What's the play? I turned, smiling coldly. We give them one final night together. A celebration. A family Christmas. Nathan raised a brow. You're bringing them all together? Yes. And then, I show them the real gift, truth. Christmas in Manhattan was bitter cold. The kind of cold that stung through even the most expensive coats. Perfect weather for clearing out the rot. Nathan and I went over every detail. The catering staff would be gone by 7. Hidden cameras recorded every inch of the house. Our private security sat outside in black SUVs. And Vincent? I asked. He confirmed this morning. Elena told him it's a small family holiday. Just them, you, and a few close friends. Perfect, I said. I adjusted my cufflinks, a nervous habit from years past. Tonight would end 15 years of illusions. By midnight, the Mercer family, as I had known it, would be no more. The house gleamed with lights, garlands, crystal ornaments. Elena had outdone herself. She descended the staircase in a red silk dress that made her look like the ghost of the woman I once loved. How do I look? She asked, spinning slightly. Like a woman about to get everything she's worked for. I said, truth wrapped in flattery. Michael and Ivy joined us in the living room. dressed like perfect holiday portraits. Their energy was taut, anxious. Is Mr. Hale coming? Ivy asked, trying to be casual. Any minute now, Elena said, unable to hide her excitement. At exactly 8 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to Vincent Hale. He held a vintage bottle of wine and wore a designer overcoat. Behind his smile was a man unraveling, his empire fraying, and he didn't even know it yet. Logan, thank you again for inviting me. It means a lot. Family is everything, I said, stepping aside. Come in. There's plenty of food. He hugged Elena slightly too long. He ruffled Michael's hair like a proud uncle. He complimented Ivy's dress in a tone that made her glow. I observed it all like a scientist dissecting a dying organism. These people, my people, had used my house, my love, my name, while conspiring to destroy me. Now they toasted to their victory. Dinner was lively. Vincent told stories of Christmases in Seattle, of his vision for the company, of expansion plans he couldn't afford. I've been thinking, he said, swirling wine, about making New York my permanent home. There's something special here. I smiled. You have no idea. This city feels like home, Vincent said with ease. We'd love that. Elena chimed in, smiling radiantly. Wouldn't we, Logan? Absolutely, I replied, masking my fury. It's always nice having trusted friends close by. Michael leaned forward eagerly. Mr. Hale, tell Dad about that lakeside development you mentioned. Vincent shot him a look, sharp, fast, intended to silence. Too fast for anyone to notice. Except me. Oh, it's nothing firm, Vincent said quickly. Just an idea. I'd still love to hear it, I encouraged. You know I'm always open to ambitious projects. He launched into a pitch that was, to the untrained ear, dazzling. But I recognized the fingerprints. He'd stitched together fragments of my own stolen plans. A Frankenstein of stolen blueprints and half-understood numbers. I nodded as if impressed. It's bold, I said. The kind of thing that only works if both parties have complete trust. Trust, Vincent agreed, is everything. After dinner, I invited everyone into the living room for dessert and coffee. The Christmas tree sparkled behind us, casting gold light across a scene that would look picture-perfect in a magazine. Elena brought out her famous chocolate torte. Michael added logs to the fire. Ivy curled into her favorite chair with cocoa. This is perfect, she said dreamily. Having Mr. Hale here, it feels like we finally have a complete family. The words slammed into me like a car crash. I looked at her, my daughter, my baby girl. The one who clung to my hand during thunderstorms and asked me to sing lullabies until she fell asleep. Now she wanted to replace me with the man who had engineered my destruction. Speaking of family, I said, gently placing my coffee on the table, I have something I'd like to share. Elena looked up. Good news, I hope. That depends, I said, pulling a small black device from my jacket pocket, on how you define good news. I placed the recorder on the table. I've been collecting memories, conversations. Thought tonight would be the perfect time to share them. Vincent's face lost all its color. Logan, wait. Let me finish, I said sharply. The room fell into complete silence. I pressed play. Logan thinks he's so untouchable. Elena's voice rang out, cool and cruel. He tells me everything, every weakness, every fear. Michael and Ivy stared, confused. Then Vincent's voice followed. And they're willing to help us take him down. Michael still hates him for boarding school. Ivy feels trapped. They want freedom. I told them this would give it to them. Understanding hit like a lightning strike. Michael's mouth fell open. Ivy began shaking her head in panic. Dad, I didn't. I raised a hand. Let's hear the rest. Elena's laughter filled the room. He built his entire identity around being the provider, the protector. When we destroy him, it won't just be his business that falls. It'll be his soul. I pressed stop. Elena was pale, frozen, calculating. Vincent stood and reached for his coat. If you move, I said coldly, I'll have you arrested before you reach the sidewalk. I have you on camera stealing confidential documents, conspiring with minors, and committing corporate espionage. He sank back into the chair. Logan, I can explain. Explain what? I asked. That you turned my wife and children into weapons? That you tried to dismantle everything I spent my life building? I stood and walked to the mantelpiece, looking at 15 years of family photos that meant nothing now. Then I turned and faced them. Elena, here's what's going to happen. You're going to pack your things and leave this house tonight. You'll get divorce papers in the morning. You will sign them. No alimony. No settlement. No access to the children. She found her voice, her lawyer instincts kicking in. You can't do that. The prenup has an adultery clause, I said. And you triggered it. But even if it didn't, I have more than enough evidence to destroy you publicly and legally. You used our kids to commit felonies. You'll be lucky not to serve time. I turned to Vincent. As for you, you have 24 hours to sell off your Chicago holdings and leave New York. If you're still here after that, I'll destroy you so thoroughly you'll beg for prison. Vincent sat up straighter, bluffing. You can't prove half of this. And my family. I smiled, slow and vicious. Your Seattle empire? It's crumbling. Your properties are leveraged to the hilt. Guess who now owns the mortgage notes? Vincent's face fell. What are you talking about? I own your debt, Vincent. Every investor you begged in the last month, those were my shell companies. That's impossible. Check your phone, I said. You might find a few voicemails. Vincent scrambled for his phone. As he listened, his face collapsed. I turned to Michael and Ivy. Now came the part one dreaded most. Michael was crying. 16 years of confidence and cockiness had shattered. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't understand. Mom said it was just. You chose, Michael. I interrupted. You were old enough to know right from wrong. You didn't just follow. You helped. Ivy sobbed quietly, face hidden in her hands. Daddy, I love you. I didn't want to hurt you. I looked at them both, their faces, their tears. Part of me wanted to forgive. The other part only saw betrayal. You had a choice, I said flatly. You chose to betray someone who loved you unconditionally. I sat back in my chair, suddenly feeling old. You'll finish this school year. After that, you'll live with your grandmother in Arizona. Your college funds will remain untouched, but you'll have no further contact with me. No, Michael collapsed to his knees. Please, I'll do anything. Let me fix it. I looked at the boy I had taught to tie his first tie. No, Michael, some things don't get fixed. Ivy was hyperventilating. You're abandoning us? I looked her straight in the eyes. No, I said quietly. You abandoned me. You abandoned me first. Elena stood, fists clenched, voice shaking. You bastard. They're just kids. Whatever you think I did, whatever Vincent did, punish us. But don't throw away your own children because of your pride. I laughed, not because anything was funny. It was hollow, like glass cracking. My pride. I stepped closer. You spent 8 months dismantling everything I built. You turned our children into pawns, brought a predator into our lives, into our home, into our bed. And you think this is about pride? This is about weakness, forgiveness, humanity, she said, voice cracking. You're not capable of any of that. No, I said. This is about consequences. About what happens when someone declares war on the person who loved them most, and that person decides to win. The room went silent except for Ivy's sobbing and the steady crackle of the fireplace. I looked around at the ruins of my once perfect life. Elena, shattered and silent. Vincent, destroyed and powerless. My children, devastated, too late in their regret. There was no joy in this. No triumph. Just the cold clarity of a man who had lost everything that mattered and gained the kind of freedom that only comes from having nothing left to lose. The security team will escort Mr. Hale to his hotel, I said, slipping into the professional tone that once closed billion-dollar deals. Elena, you have until morning to pack. Martin will supervise. You leave with only what's legally yours. She looked at me, breaking finally. 15 years. 2 children. Does none of that mean anything? I turned to the window. The skyline sparkled beneath the winter sky. My skyline, my city, my empire. It meant everything. Elena, I said without looking back. That's why I can never forgive you for destroying it. By New Year's Day, the transformation was complete. Elena moved into a bleak downtown condo, her punishment formalized by one of the most brutal divorce settlements in Manhattan legal history. Vincent Hale fled to Seattle, trying in vain to rescue what was left of his collapsing legacy. Michael and Ivy packed their bags for Arizona. My mother, their grandmother, flew in to collect them. 2 broken children shipped off, like salvaged wreckage. I stood alone in the office where it had all begun. The plans, the evidence, the lies, they surrounded me like ghosts. Martin sat across from me, still sharp, still loyal. The Seattle properties are officially in foreclosure, he said. Vincent's trying to negotiate with lenders, but he doesn't know they're negotiating with you. What about his connections? His uncle tried to throw his weight around, Martin said with a smirk. Turns out federal judges don't scare banks when the paperwork is clean. We used real debt, Logan. No one can help him now. I nodded. Good. And the trust funds? I asked. Established and funded. College only. They can't touch the principal until they're 30. And if they try to reach out to you, call, write, visit, it voids everything. It was harsh, but it had to be. They needed to understand that not every betrayal is fixable. That some bridges, once burned, stay ash. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I had lived alone before. Built my empire in silence. But 15 years of family life had filled those empty spaces, now echoing again with loss. I didn't miss Elena. That woman no longer existed. What I missed was the illusion. The belief that someone truly shared my dreams. That I hadn't been alone all along. The children, they were harder. I understood, logically, that they were manipulated. But emotionally, they knew. They knew what they were doing, and they did it anyway. Francisco appeared at my door, hesitant. I have the final documents. I skimmed them. Divorce finalized. Custody dissolved. Assets divided per the adultery clause. She signed everything? Without a fight. Her lawyers must have explained how badly she lost. There's one more thing, Francisco said. She's been calling. She says she has information about Vincent. Something about revenge. I almost laughed. Elena trying to be useful. Still playing games. Tell her I'm not interested. Yes, sir. And the kids they've called too. Brandon left several voicemails. Very emotional. I turned to the window. Snow dusted the garden where we once built snowmen. The driveway where Michael learned to drive. The swing set where Ivy dreamed about becoming an artist. Delete the messages, I said. All of them. Sir, they're just kids. I turned slowly. They made their choice. Now they live with it. That afternoon, I drove to Martin's place for our weekly strategy review. These meetings had become ritual, an anchor in the void left behind. You look like hell, he said, opening the door. I feel efficient, I replied. Efficient isn't living. I'm exactly where I need to be. We sat in the same chairs we had when this all started. The betrayal, the plan, the war. Logan, when's the last time you slept? Sleep is for people with dreams. You won, he said. You destroyed everyone who wronged you. Protected the company. You won. Maybe it's time to stop punishing. Start rebuilding. Rebuild what? I asked. My marriage? My family. My life was an illusion. Now I have the truth. That's enough. Martin poured 2 whiskeys and handed me one. There's something else you need to know about Vincent. My eyes narrowed. He's not done, Martin said. Our contacts in Seattle say he's been making calls. Not to lawyers, to other people. What kind of people? The kind who solve problems with bullets instead of lawsuits. I felt the cold slide back into my chest. That familiar adrenaline of a new threat rising. Details. He's painting you as the villain. Telling people you ran a corporate conspiracy. That you've got dirt on his family. He's calling in favors. And these aren't the kind of men who wear suits. I stood slowly, every nerve sharpened. Then it's time we remind Mr. Hale, I said. What happens when you threaten someone who's already lost everything? He's not making threats we can take to court, Martin said. But he's asking questions about your security, your habits, your blind spots. I didn't flinch. Instead, I smiled. That old, familiar smile. The one that once terrified hostile CEOs and legal departments alike. Good, I said calmly. I was starting to wonder when Vincent would finally escalate to something interesting. Martin didn't return the smile. This isn't a boardroom play, Logan. These people don't care about contracts or consequences. Neither do I replied. Martin set down his whiskey. What are you thinking? I walked to the window of his apartment, staring down at the street where we grew up, where I learned that survival had a price and victory came to the ruthless. I'm thinking Vincent Hale still doesn't understand who he picked a fight with. He's treating this like a hostile acquisition, I continued. Remove the obstacle, move on. But this isn't business anymore. This is personal. Martin's jaw tightened. What do you want me to do? I turned to him slowly. Send a message. What kind of message? The kind you don't misunderstand. 3 days later, Vincent received a package at his Seattle hotel suite. Inside, a single photo. His elderly mother, arms full of groceries, stepping out of a market in Bellevue. On the back, in neat block letters. Some games have no winners. Vincent called my office within the hour. You son of a bitch, he spat, his voice shaking. If you touch my mother, I won't need to, I replied coolly. Just like I won't need to touch your sister in Portland or your nephew in San Francisco. Do you know why? Silence. Because you're going to stop, I continued. You're going to accept that you lost, that this war is over, and you're going to disappear. You can't threaten. I'm not threatening, I cut in. I'm informing. You declared war on my family. I crushed your empire. You escalate to violence. I escalate beyond anything you've imagined. I hung up without another word. Martin looked at me from across the room. You think he got the message? He got it. Are you really willing to follow through? I looked out across the city I had conquered, not with love, but with strategy, silence, and pain. Martin, 6 months ago, I thought I was a family man who just happened to be good at business. Then I found out my family was my enemy. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. I turned to him. Do you honestly think I have any lines left I wouldn't cross? Martin didn't answer. He didn't need to. Because we both knew the truth. Whatever I had once been, husband, father, dreamer, was dead. And what remained was something colder, sharper, and infinitely more dangerous. That night, I stood alone in the silence of my mansion. No laughter, no footsteps, just shadows and ghosts. Tomorrow, I'd build more towers, sign more deals, expand more empires. But I'd do it without the burden of love, or the distraction of trust. Because life had taught me its final lesson. Mercy is a luxury for the naive. In Seattle, Vincent Hale sat in his hotel room, staring at the photo of his mother, making his own calculations about power and survival, and what the price of continued defiance might be. And in Phoenix, 2 teenagers cried themselves to sleep, learning that some mistakes don't fade with time, and that some fathers never come back once you've chosen the wrong side of the war. Spring arrived in New York with reluctant warmth. 3 months had passed since Christmas. The city thawed. Flowers returned. But I felt nothing. My life had become surgically efficient. Mercer and Company was thriving. Revenue soared. Projects expanded. My reputation had become legend, brilliant, precise, untouchable, and utterly alone. I sat on the 47th floor of my tower, reviewing quarterly reports. Every metric gleamed. Profits, retention, shares. Success without distractions was surprisingly easy. Francisco entered with her usual composure. Mr. Mercer, several matters require your review. I took the papers, noting how flawlessly she organized by priority. She'd worked for me 8 years, understood me better than my wife ever had. The Hudson project broke ground yesterday, she noted. The mayor's office requested a photo op. Decline. Let PR handle it. She hesitated. Wallace Martin from the Tribune called again, still asking for an interview. What about your business philosophy, expansion, and your personal changes? My jaw clenched. Decline. Francisco nodded, then placed something separate on my desk. This came by courier this morning. A single envelope. I recognized the handwriting instantly. Brandon. His blocky, careful penmanship. The result of years in elite schools. A Phoenix return address. Should I leave it? Francisco asked. Close the door behind you. I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened it. Dear Dad, I know you said no contact, but I needed to try. I've been seeing a counselor here, and I finally understand what we did to you. What I did. I know Mom and Mr. Hale manipulated us, but I also know that doesn't excuse anything. I think about you every day. About the way you taught me to lead, to think, to be strong. I threw all of that away, and I know you can't forgive me. I'm not asking for another chance. I'm not asking for the trust fund, or inheritance, or even your voice. I just want you to know I learned. I will never again choose the easy path over the loyal one. I hope you're happy. I hope you find people who deserve your love better than we did. Your son, Brandon. I read it 3 times. Then I placed it in my drawer, besides similar letters from Ivy, and 2 from Elena. I wouldn't reply, but I wouldn't destroy them either. My phone buzzed. Martin, need to meet. Vincent's situation has evolved. I grabbed my coat and headed to HQ, the building we once used to protect assets. Now it monitored the people trying to end me. What changed? I asked, stepping inside the war room. Martin turned, his face grave. He's not just recovering, he said. He's building something new. Martin didn't blink when the screen lit up with the headline. Vincent Hale dies in car crash outside Tacoma. Rain, speed, and whiskey, Martin explained quietly. Went over the guardrail on I-5. Logan Mercer didn't react, not with shock, not with satisfaction. Just the calm of a man who had already buried this war in his mind. Suicide. That's the assumption. His empire collapsed completely. Bankruptcy, fraud investigations, family support vanished. He had nothing left. Logan nodded. And the violent options? Gone. Once the money dried up, so did the muscle. No one fights for free. So he chose the final exit. Martin's gaze lingered on his brother. How do you feel about it? Logan looked out the window at the skyline he owned. 3 months ago, I'd have felt vindicated. Maybe pity. Now, I feel nothing. Martin nodded slowly. Vincent made his move. He lost. That chapter's closed. But not the book, Logan added. Martin hesitated, then asked the question that had lingered for months. Are you happy? Logan turned, face blank. Happiness is for people with something left to lose. I have efficiency. I have results. I have control. That's more sustainable than happiness. But is it better? Logan stared at his brother. Happiness requires trust. Trust creates vulnerability. I trusted Elena. I trusted Ivy. I trusted my kids. And they weaponized that love. So no more trust? Ever? I trust you, Logan said. Because you've earned it over decades. Everyone else. They prove it with action, not promises. Martin exhaled. And rebuilding? Starting fresh? Logan almost smiled. But it didn't reach his eyes. I had 15 years to build something real. A family. A life. I gave everything to it. They used it. Why would I risk that again with strangers? Because not everyone is them. Logan raised a brow. Martin, think about every relationship you've had. Every exchange. What was the cost? What did they want in return? Martin opened his mouth, then stopped. His own past had answers he didn't like. You're talking like love is a transaction, he said. All relationships are contracts, Logan replied. Some people just lie about the terms. Weeks passed. The invitations came in, gala dinners, charity auctions, elite events. Logan attended alone. He declined setups with wealthy widows and ambitious socialites. Always polite. Always cold. You're too young and successful to stay alone forever, Rich Johnston told him over lunch. I'm not alone, Logan said, cutting his steak precisely. I have my empire. But not every woman is Elena. Logan looked up. She convinced me for 15 years. I trusted her to raise my children. To protect our name. She played her part, perfectly. How would I tell the difference now? Rich had no answer. Because there wasn't one. Then came the call. Martin. Voice low. Tense. We have a problem. Elena's been arrested. Logan's jaw didn't tighten. He simply closed his eyes. For what? Fraud. Embezzlement. Espionage. FBI raided her place. Turns out she wasn't just targeting you. She was selling corporate secrets across multiple companies. Using her network. Social circles. Other executives' wives. Logan leaned against a lamppost outside the restaurant. The Chicago winds brushing against his suit like whispers from the past. And how far back does it go? Possibly before she met you. There's evidence she specifically pursued you for access. Your wealth. Your leverage. He didn't speak for a long time. When he finally did, his voice was flat. She was never my wife. She was just a well-disguised liability. Martin hesitated. There's more. The kids, they're under investigation too. It seems their involvement was more active than we assumed. Logan ended the call. He stood in the heart of the business district. People walked past him, laughing, texting, building lives. And he felt nothing but clarity. His ex-wife would now learn that criminal betrayal came with federal charges. His children would now learn that betrayal could follow you into adulthood. Logan Mercer didn't smile. He just turned and walked back into the restaurant. Rich looked up. Everything okay? Logan sat down, unfolded his napkin, and resumed lunch. Everything is exactly as it should be. 6 months after Vincent's death, Logan Mercer had mastered the art of emotional detachment. He rose at 5 a.m., worked out in his private gym, reviewed global reports with brutal precision. At 7 o'clock sharp, he was at Mercer & Company, expanding what was already an empire. There were no distractions, no relationships, no room for sentiment, just progress and peace. The cold, calculated peace of a man who had traded love for control. The federal investigation into Elena's corporate espionage concluded with her conviction on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. She was now inmate number 14239 at a minimum security facility outside the city, her cellmates, no doubt, growing experts in executive mergers and capital markets. Brandon and Ivy had escaped charges due to their ages, but not the consequences. Their involvement had been documented thoroughly, enough to scar their names for years to come. Their betrayal had become case law in Logan's mind, referenced occasionally, never reopened. Martin updated him weekly. For Logan, they were just names in a file. Points on a timeline. Data, not memories. They've been asking about you, Martin said one morning, halfway through a security briefing. Their grandmother even called the office. What did you say? That you haven't changed your position. Good, Logan said, not looking up from his financial projections. Martin lingered, a subtle sign of disagreement. Logan, Brandon is 17. Ivy's 15. In a few years, they'll be adults, trying to make something of their lives. Logan finally raised his eyes. They had choices. They chose betrayal. Some consequences last forever. Martin nodded and moved on to other matters. But the tension stayed. That afternoon, Logan stood in a hard hat and tailored coat at the groundbreaking of the Mercer Arcology, a $300 million mixed-use skyscraper that would define Chicago's skyline for the next century. Politicians smiled for cameras. Developers clapped on cue. Logan played the part of the visionary billionaire. But he noticed the way wives pulled their children a bit closer when they passed him, as if betrayal were contagious. "Magnificent project," said Councilman Timothy Ramirez, leaning in for a handshake. "You continue setting the bar for the city." "We're grateful for the city's partnership," Logan replied coolly. "I'd be honored if you joined my table at the chamber dinner next month." Another transaction. Influence for influence. He agreed, and the ceremony dispersed. But before he reached his car, he saw her. Ivy, 15, taller now, thinner, standing just behind a construction barrier, arms crossed tight, as if shielding herself from more than just the cold. She didn't try to approach him, just watched, as though memorizing a face she might never see again. Logan paused. She raised a hand, slow, tentative. He nodded once, then got into the car without looking back. That night, Martin's call came at 8 o'clock sharp. "She was there," he said. "Ivy. Our team caught her on the crowd cam." "I saw her. Did you speak to her?" "No. Logan, she's your daughter." Logan stood at his window, staring at the empire he'd built, glass towers glowing against the night like monuments to isolation. "She was my daughter," he corrected. "Now she's someone who made a decision. And I made mine." She was 14, old enough to understand what betrayal meant, old enough to know right from wrong. She picked her side. Martin sighed. "Logan, one day, she'll live with it, just like I do." In the following weeks, Logan's schedule filled with elite functions, gala dinners, charity auctions, political roundtables. Always alone, always politely detached. At a fundraiser for the Children's Research Alliance, Logan was seated beside Carol Clean, a prominent attorney whose husband had died in a skiing accident. She was smart, polished, comfortable in her own power. "I hear you're building half the skyline," she said with a warm smile. "I prefer to invest in permanence," Logan replied. "Must be satisfying, leaving something behind." "Most structures outlast the people who built them." "Do your children work with you?" Logan didn't flinch. "I don't involve family in business." Carol paused, clearly aware of his public history. "Sometimes, distance is the healthiest option," she said gently. Logan offered a tight smile. "Exactly." They spoke of safe things after that. Municipal zoning, litigation trends, construction unions. She was charming. And in another world, he might have cared. But this world? He had burned the bridges before they ever formed. That night, back in his penthouse, Logan stared out at the city again. He thought of Ivy's hand raised in silent hope. Of Brandon's letter, still locked in a drawer. Of a prison outside Chicago where a woman once called wife now lectured about financial integrity to fellow inmates. He didn't feel vindicated. Or victorious. Only confirmed. In a world built on betrayal, trust was the first casualty. Family, the second. And love? That was never more than a dangerous illusion. But buildings didn't lie. Spreadsheets didn't betray. Markets rewarded discipline, not emotion. And so, every morning at 5 a.m., Logan Mercer rose again. To build. To win. Alone.